Hey friends, today I wanted to put together a short focus video on a Kingshot rumor about troop promotions. You may remember in my free-to-play mega guide on Hall of Governors, KVK Prep, Alliance Brawl, Strongest Governor, etc., linked below in the description, that one of the many strategies players use in troop training days is to promote old troops. I mentioned that the increase in points is so significant that players will go out of their way to even intentionally train lower tier troops just so they can have a stockpile of them ready to promote during Kingdom of Power or another such event. Before I get into the myth, let me just explain quickly why someone would even want to do this. Basically, this approach allows you to break up troop training into a two-step process. The first step trains the troop partway to a tier of your choosing, and then the second step promotes them from that tier to the highest tier troop that you can possibly train. Either way, if you do the math per troop, it takes the same total resources and it takes the same total training time. Now this can be confusing because instead of just giving you a smaller batch time to promote the same number of troops, the game allows you to increase the batch size of troops you promote such that the total training time is equal to the time it would take you to train a full batch of all new highest tier troops. This convenience means you don't need to manually restart smaller batches of troops constantly, but instead can just do a large troop batch as normal. This way you can log off overnight, for example, and not have to keep restarting new batches. It's a pretty clever quality of life feature. In addition to this point of confusion, you score points on troop training day based on the tier of the troop that you complete, while promotions grant you the difference in points between the troop tiers. And even if you haven't done the math and just observed from the experience of naturally promoting your troops as you progress through the game, you get quite a lot more points for troop promotions than from direct training. And this is because if we go back to our infographic, you spend less time per troop during the active point scoring portion of the event. And even though you get fewer points per troop promotion, the net effect is still an increase in point scoring per training time spent. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the actual viewer question that kicked this all off. I do a lot of game discussion and theory crafting over on the Kingshot channel of the Play Smarter community Discord, and the topic of troop promotion for KVK came up. And after some back and forth, one of my viewers shared a belief that he had heard circulating around his server. It was a rumor that instead of promoting tier 9 troops ahead of time and then promoting them to tier 10 during KVK, some people were saying that it was better to do it with tier 5 troops ahead of time instead and then promoting those troops to tier 10 during KVK. And that this would somehow get you better points overall for the same amount of speed ups used. He then tried to share a bit of the math and said that he wasn't fully confident he had done everything correctly and was asking if the community could then help him resolve it. Either way, it would point to the most ideal way of scoring points during KVK. Now, further complicating the math on this a bit is that the actual points per troop tier change from event to event. For example, look at the point scale in an event like Hall of Governors. Now compare that to KVK, and then compare that to Alliance Brawl. Not only are the totals vastly different, but they also scale at slightly different rates. So if we are going to solve this once and for all, we need to look at all of these events simultaneously. Now, there are a lot of questions about Kingshot strategies that are very challenging to test or where the data is intentionally obscured by the developers, but this one, for once, was actually a solvable optimization problem. And essentially we're trying to answer, how do we get the most points per time spent on this bar in the infographic? And of course, how does it compare to the points for just training a tier 10 troop alone? So I put together a spreadsheet to answer it. This required training 100 troops of each type on my main account and taking a screenshot of the troop times. Then, promoting all of them in batches of 100 to see the time that was required. I chose batches of 100 instead of single troops to help mitigate the effects of rounding to the nearest second on our analysis. Then, after cataloging all of the times against my individual training speed bonus for my account, I aggregated all of the point totals across each event. Some of them I had in past footage from my old videos, and some of them I added as screenshots to the file for reference. Finally, we were ready. I took each of those time measurements and put them into a separate scenario, Then I standardized the time in seconds required to produce a single troop, and I did this for both direct troop training as well as for troop promotions. And now that we knew the time that each action took, it was just a matter of lining that action up against the number of points it would score in each event. So for example, training a tier 10 troop in Hall of Governors would yield you 1,960 points, while promoting a tier 1 troop to tier 10 will yield 1,870 points, and promoting from tier 9 to 10 will yield only 475 points. And then it becomes a simple game of multiplication to get the amount of points scored per second of the troop training time for each event. And then it becomes a simple game of division to get the amount of points scored per second of troop training time for each event. And remember, we're trying to optimize around the time spent during the point scoring period, thus we assume that this is the bottleneck and not resources or existing stockpiles of low tier troops to promote. And a few insights actually start to jump out pretty quickly. First of all, any form of troop promotion is advantageous to any form of direct training during the same time period. And also the point intensity increases with higher tiers of starting troops, with quite a significant jump in the tier 8 and tier 9 range. But pretty conclusively we can say from this that tier 9 to tier 10 troop training is optimal. There's also one other interesting wrinkle if you look right around here. It is actually more advantageous to direct train tier 2 troops than direct train tier 3 in Kingdom of Power. And there's a similar situation with tier 1 and tier 2 troops in Alliance Brawl. For the most part though, this doesn't really matter, since by the time you're doing either of these events, you should have way better point scoring opportunities at your disposal than training these low tier troops. So now that we've established this initial answer, there is one other factor to consider. Because our order of operations included both division and subtraction to arrive at the point totals, it's possible that the answer could change if we have a different training bonus. In any case, these numbers were taken from my 211.6% account training speed boost during the time of these screenshots. So what would happen if we didn't have any training bonus? Would the answer be the same then? So to answer that, I made a separate sheet in the workbook. And this new column divides by 1 plus my 211.6% bonus. This is because you start the game with a 0% bonus. Troop training speed is additive, so you should read 211.6% as 200+% increase to my base rate, which means I'm training troops over 3 times faster than I was at the start of the game. So when I adjust for this, you can see all of these base training speeds for each troop tier, and the same below with the promotion times. And these flow into a new points per second calculation on the right here, which shows that clearly these numbers are smaller, but they also still follow the same pattern. Troop promotion is still more efficient than direct training, and in particular, the tier 9 and 10 troop promotions are the best. And in case you want to go into the other direction and see if that still holds true, let me show you what a 1000% troop training bonus would look like. We get much bigger numbers for sure, but again, the same trend holds. So not only can we say that investments in troop training speed will improve your competitiveness in Hall of Governors and similar events, but the tier 9 to tier 10 troop promotion strategy is the single most efficient way to score points in the troop training day. And now we can also conclusively say that this is currently true in the game for any troop training speed, in any point scoring event, and even at any true gold level, since true gold levels do not impact these calculations. Now there might be many reasons why it's not practical for you to train one troop tier down in your current situation, especially if you're trying to build up enough troops for multiple marches and events like Swordlands, or to have even more highest tier troops to support with reinforcements in Castle Battle. But if you're at the point in the game where you have more troops than you need, this is a strategy you might want to consider for maximizing your KVK points. If helpful, I'm putting the link to the spreadsheet below. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments or let me know if there are other rumors or myths you would want me to take a look at in a future video. Also, be sure to check out our new Sloth Squad memberships to help support more theory crafting and analysis just like this. Thanks again for watching, and happy gaming out there.